Hi everyone, I just got done replacing the valve cartridge inside the Price-Pfister tub shower single handle valve, and there was a number of things in their training video that they have online that were either not clear or I think could be improved, and I'm going to share those things with you now. The first thing they don't mention is that you want to turn off the water, the main water supply to your bathroom, so that you don't get sprayed in the face. According to the Price-Pfister tech video, this is a 3/32 inch Allen key, and what they don't say is that there's likely going to be corrosion inside there, so they really should probably put this in the video that you may need to spray some WD-40 or something to kind of break up the corrosion. Secondly, pulling off the handle is a little bit more difficult. Okay, so I've loosened up the 3/32 inch Allen key. The other thing they don't show you is that how tricky this can be to take off, especially if it's been here for a while. There's like corrosion and gunk on the stem, and it's a plastic stem, and they basically show them the user getting leverage by putting their hand behind the whole trim kit and everything, and basically putting their hand inside the wall, which is not really practical either. So you just kind of have to kind of work it out and wiggle it until it finally comes off. This is probably more like what you're going to experience. And if I do, maybe you can put a little bit of WD-40 back there also, but it's never as easy as they show. And I may have to put the camera down in order to do this. So in the training video, they did this with their fingers, which may be possible in a brand new unit that's never been used and it hasn't been there for a while. But I actually found that I needed to use a pair of pliers. I used some rubber tip pliers because I didn't want to damage this thing. There is a hex on here, so you might need to put a tiny little wrench on there to undo it as well. And try not to drop it down the drain. Because there is the potential for dropping screws down the drain, you may want to just put some toilet paper down there just so that you don't lose a screw. So in many cases I find that this trim ring is really hard to unscrew. In this case I actually lucked out, it was pretty easy. But sometimes this is the hardest part to remove. You have to make sure everything's really dry and clean. This is where maybe one of those little rubber mitts that you might have for opening up jars in the kitchen might be helpful to remove this little trim ring, because you don't really want to put pliers on here because you don't want to damage it too much. And again, in the video they show putting your fingers back behind the trim ring, which is obviously impractical in an installed situation. So I'm probably going to have to get a screwdriver or something to get behind it. Okay, as expected, I need to use a screwdriver to get behind it, to kind of work around. Okay, so now that I've removed the brass ring, I need to pull out the cartridge, and that went out pretty easy. I thought it was going to be a little bit more stuck in there. And then there's this inside one. There. Had we not turned off the water, we would be getting a face full of water right now. The old assembly was in two pieces with the brass ring that holds everything in place, and the new assembly is all one unit. I didn't feel like this was super clear, but there's a tab here and here on the new valve, and there's a little recession on both sides, but what's not clear is which way this should go, if it should go this way or this way. So they may have actually indicated this tab here, but what I actually wound up doing is just holding the handle on it. And the valve is open in the back. You can see that it's open. So this is the way it's supposed to be, is with the tab down. They didn't mention this in the video, but in my experience, when you're dealing with a compression of an O-ring, which is on the body of this, you want to like tighten these up slowly, kind of crossways. So to tighten this one here, then I did this one, and I'm not going all the way flush at this point. I'm just going to work my way around so that the O-ring kind of goes in nice and gently without getting any kinks in it. Because if the O-ring gets a kink in it, then you wind up having a water leak at that point. So I'll just work my way around here until it's all the way, the body of the valve cartridge is all the way in with the brass. So while you have the handle off, I think it's a good idea to actually clean all of this up. There's all of this like calcium deposits. There's a product called calcium lime rust that removes all of this. But if you don't do that now and you ever have to do your cartridge again, it's going to be even harder to take this off in the future. I also found it a little tricky to actually put the handle back onto the nylon piece here. This is all like fully formed from the factory, but now this one actually has like crud inside there. So I'm actually going to use a pipe cleaner and the CLR to clean that all out so that it will fit on there better. So I have to say it took a lot of back and forth, maybe almost a week or maybe 2 weeks of back and forth emailing with Price-Pfister in order to identify the exact model that we have here. I always wish that manufacturers would just kind of use laser etch the model number. I think this was like the marquee version, but laser etch it either here or on the back of the trim plate so that you can actually quickly identify it. But instead what they wanted is a lot of detailed pictures of these units, and in the end they did come through and was able to identify the model, but it could have been a much shorter process. But they did come through, and it didn't cost anything to have the replacement parts sent.